Imagine this. A woman in her 40s or 50s walks into a cafe, confident, glowing, and totally at peace with herself. Across the room, a younger man, maybe late 20s or early 30s, looks up from his laptop, and there it is. That spark, that magnetic pull that nobody planned, nobody expected, but now it's undeniable. He's intrigued, she's cautious, and the rest of the world is already whispering, wait, is he serious, or is this just some fling? That's the million-dollar question, right? Can a younger man actually be serious about an older woman, or is it just some short-lived thrill, like binge-watching a show you know you'll never finish? Well, buckle up, because we're about to dive into the myths, the truths, the awkward laughs, the late-night confessions, the emotional fireworks, and yes, the societal drama that comes with this topic. And trust me, by the end of this, you'll either be texting someone you've been second-guessing, or you'll be reevaluating the way you see age gap love altogether. So stick around, because this isn't just a script, it's a real talk conversation. You know, when people hear about a younger guy dating an older woman, the first thing they do is squint their eyes like they're trying to solve some complicated math problem, right? Like, wait a second, she's 12 years older, 15, 20? Hold up, let me grab a calculator and see if that even makes sense. And the world automatically assumes that he's either chasing a fantasy, going through some weird experimental phase, or maybe just doesn't know what he wants yet. But here's the thing nobody talks about loudly enough. Sometimes that younger man isn't confused at all. Sometimes he knows exactly what he wants, and what he wants just happens to be a woman with a little more life experience, a little more wisdom, and yeah, a little more confidence that only comes from years of figuring yourself out. It's funny because when the genders are flipped, society shrugs. An older guy with a younger woman, oh, that's normal, that's expected, that's just men being men, right? We've seen it in Hollywood 1,000 times. Gray-haired billionaire walks into the room with someone half his age, and everybody just nods like it's another Tuesday. But flip the script, put a 28-year-old man next to a 42-year-old woman, suddenly it's breaking news. People are gossiping like they just uncovered the biggest scandal of the year, and everyone's asking the same question, is he serious about her, or is this some kind of game? But let me tell you this, you can't always measure seriousness by birthdays. You can't predict compatibility by how many candles are on the cake. A lot of people think a younger man goes after an older woman just because of physical attraction, or maybe he's rebelling against traditional norms, but sometimes it's so much deeper than that. Sometimes it's about connection. It's about how she makes him feel seen in a way that women his age might not. It's about how conversations with her don't revolve around superficial things, but instead dive into real life, real emotions, real meaning. And let's be honest, sometimes younger guys are just tired of the games. They've been on enough dates where it's all surface level, all Instagram highlight reels, and they're craving something real. And that realness often comes from someone who's lived a little more. Picture this, he's in his late 20s, hanging out with friends who are still glued to their phones, still arguing about who liked whose story on social media, still stuck in the cycle of on-again, off-again drama. And then he meets her, an older woman who doesn't care about playing games. She's not losing sleep over someone leaving her on read. She's past the point of competing or proving herself. Instead, she brings calm, confidence, and clarity. And to him, that feels like water in a desert. Suddenly, he's not just interested, he's invested. Now, here's the funny part. When people see them together, they assume she's the one with all the doubts. But in reality, often it's the younger man who has to do all the proving. He has to constantly show through his actions and his words that this isn't a phase, that he's not going to wake up one morning and say, you know what, never mind. And that's where his seriousness is tested. If he's serious, you'll see it not in what he says on day one, but in how he shows up consistently over time. See, seriousness isn't about age, it's about effort. It's about whether he introduces her to his friends, whether he's willing to be seen with her in public without shame, whether he defends her when people make comments, whether he makes plans for the future that actually include her. Because anyone can whisper sweet words in private, but a serious man, no matter his age, will back those words up with action, even when it's uncomfortable, even when people are staring, even when the whispers start. And let's not forget the emotional side of this. A lot of younger men who are genuinely serious about older women talk about how they feel emotionally safe in those relationships, safe to be vulnerable, safe to open up about their insecurities without feeling judged. because older women often bring a kind of empathy that comes from having been through their own storms. She knows heartbreak, she knows loss, she knows disappointment, and because of that, she listens differently, she responds differently, and for him, that's priceless. Now, does this mean every younger man dating an older woman is serious? Of course not. Let's be real. Sometimes it is a fling. Sometimes it is about curiosity or excitement or just wanting to try something new. But that doesn't make it any different than relationships between people the same age. Every relationship starts with a spark, and it's what you do after that spark that shows whether you're serious or not. Age doesn't exempt anyone from that. But let's talk about the elephant in the room, the stereotypes. Because the moment a younger man is with an older woman, the world throws all kinds of labels at them. People say, oh, she must be a sugar mama, or he must have mommy issues, or she's just a temporary thrill until he finds someone his age. And let's be honest, those comments hurt. They're not just annoying, they create doubt. They make the couple second guess themselves. They put cracks in something that could have been beautiful. And yet if the man is serious, he'll push through that noise. He'll prove through patience, persistence, and love that what he feels isn't a trend. I've heard stories of couples who started out with everyone against them, friends warning them, families questioning them, strangers giving them looks in restaurants. And years later, they're still together, laughing, building a life, proving every single one of those people wrong. Because seriousness isn't proven on day one. It's proven in year 5, year 10, when the spark is still alive and the love has grown roots. And let's not ignore the intimacy factor. People assume that if a younger man is with an older woman, it's purely physical, like he's chasing some fantasy, and that's all it is. But here's the reality. Intimacy with someone who's confident, comfortable in her own skin, and not insecure about every little thing, that's on a whole different level. And many younger men find that kind of intimacy more fulfilling, not less. Because it's not just about the physical, it's about connection, laughter in the middle of the night, holding hands when nobody's watching, sharing inside jokes that nobody else gets. That's the kind of stuff seriousness is built on. And let's talk about fear for a second, because this is important. A lot of older women worry deep down that a younger man can't possibly be serious, that sooner or later he'll want kids if she doesn't, or that he'll trade her in for someone younger once he hits a certain age. That fear is real, and it's valid, and it doesn't go away overnight. But here's the truth. If he's serious, he'll address those fears head on. He won't dodge them. He'll have those uncomfortable conversations, even if it means facing his own doubts. Because seriousness isn't about avoiding fear, it's about facing it together. You know, at the end of the day, the question isn't really, can a younger man be serious about an older woman? The real question is, can the world stop projecting its insecurities onto their love? Because when you strip away the labels, the stereotypes, the gossip, what you're left with is two people who either connect or they don't. And if they do, if that connection is real, then yes, absolutely, a younger man can be just as serious, if not more serious than anyone else. And let me tell you something, sometimes that younger man is the one fighting harder to make it work, because he knows he has more to prove. He knows the doubts are louder. He knows the world is watching, and instead of letting that scare him off, he uses it as fuel. He becomes more intentional, more consistent, more committed, because to him, she's worth it. So the next time you see a younger guy holding the hand of an older woman, don't assume it's temporary. Don't assume it's fake. Don't assume he's confused, because for all you know, that might be the most serious love story in the room. So here's where it gets even more interesting, because if you sit down with younger men who are in relationships with older women, you start to notice a pattern. They don't describe it as some wild experiment or some guilty pleasure. They describe it as one of the most grounding experiences of their lives. You'll hear them say things like, I can finally breathe, or I don't feel like I have to prove myself every second. And that right there, that's a sign of seriousness. Because seriousness isn't about rushing into big promises. It's about finding peace in someone's presence, about realizing you'd rather spend Friday night on the couch with them than out at some crowded club trying to impress strangers. Now, of course, seriousness is tested in the little things, like when she has a bad day and instead of panicking, he knows how to listen. Or when they go out in public and people give them side-eye, but instead of pulling away, he holds her hand tighter. Or when family members start dropping not-so-subtle comments, and instead of avoiding the subject, he says, yeah, I love her, and I'm not ashamed of it. That's when you know this isn't just some short-lived adventure. That's when you know he's locked in. And let's be real, sometimes it's the older woman who struggles to believe it, because she's been conditioned to think, why would a younger guy be serious about me? Why wouldn't he just find someone his own age, someone who hasn't lived through as many ups and downs, someone who fits society's picture of what's normal? And that self-doubt can sabotage a good thing. But the serious younger man, he doesn't just tell her she's enough, he shows her. He shows her through loyalty, through consistency, through the way he doesn't let her insecurities scare him off. Think about this. Seriousness isn't about the absence of doubts. It's about what you do with those doubts. And in these relationships, doubts will come. They'll come from her, from him, from outsiders, from family, from friends. But seriousness is when they both look at each other and say, okay, the world doesn't get it, but we do. And that's enough. And honestly, seriousness can even look like making practical plans. Because let's not pretend the age gap doesn't matter at all. It does. It comes with real-life considerations, things like what happens if she wants different things in the future? What if he wants kids and she's past that stage? What if her energy slows down sooner than his? These are real questions, but a serious man, he doesn't run from them. He sits down and says, let's talk about it. Let's figure this out. Let's plan a life that works for both of us. That's not some fling behavior. That's long-term commitment behavior. And when you see that play out, when you see a younger man proudly planning for a future with an older woman, whether that's buying a house, starting a business together, traveling, or just building a life that feels stable, you realize this is not a boy playing games. This is a man who knows what he wants, and he wants her. Now here's the twist. Sometimes the seriousness shocks even him. Sometimes he goes into it thinking it'll be fun, exciting, maybe a short chapter. And then one day he wakes up and he realizes he doesn't just like her, he loves her. He doesn't just enjoy her company, he craves it. He doesn't just admire her confidence, he feels like he's grown because of it. And suddenly what started out as curiosity turns into one of the deepest connections of his life. That's how love works sometimes. It sneaks up on you, and before you know it, you're serious in ways you never planned to be. And here's something nobody admits out loud. Sometimes younger men are more serious than older ones. Why? Because they have nothing to prove by being there. Society isn't applauding them. They're not getting pats on the back for dating an older woman. If anything, they're getting judged, laughed at, teased. So if they stay, if they commit, if they stand strong in the face of all that noise, that's not play, that's real, because there's no trophy in it for them. The only reason they're there is because they truly want to be. Now let's talk about passion, because this is where it gets even more layered. Seriousness doesn't mean boring. It doesn't mean routine. It doesn't mean robotic planning. It means depth. And passion with an older woman can feel different. It's not just fiery attraction. It's playful. It's grounded. It's full of inside jokes and stolen glances. And for a younger man, that's often irresistible. He's not just chasing adrenaline anymore, he's chasing connection. And that's why the seriousness grows. But let's address the cynics for a second, because you know they're out there. The ones who say, give it a few years, he'll get bored, he'll eventually want someone younger. It's just a phase. And look, sometimes they're right. Not every relationship lasts. But guess what? That's true of every couple. Same age, older guy, younger girl, whatever. Relationships end all the time. The difference is when a younger man does stay, when he does commit, when he does prove everyone wrong, it's so much more powerful. Because it shows he wasn't swayed by the stereotypes, he wasn't pressured by the whispers, he wasn't tempted by what's expected. He chose her and he keeps choosing her day after day. That's seriousness. And here's the most beautiful part. Sometimes years later, that same couple who had everyone doubting them becomes an example of true love for others. Friends who once judged them now come to them for advice. Family members who once rolled their eyes now say, wow, you two really proved us wrong. And society slowly but surely starts to shift its perspective. Because love like that, it's undeniable. Now imagine you're that younger man. You're in your late 20s, and everyone around you is telling you that this can't work. But every time you look at her, you feel peace, joy, love. What do? Do you listen to the noise, or do you follow your heart? That's the crossroads where seriousness is proven. That's the moment when you decide if this is just a fling, or if this is forever. And the men who are truly serious, they choose forever. So can a younger man be serious about an older woman? Absolutely. Not only can he, many are. The world just doesn't always notice because seriousness doesn't always look flashy. It's not always about grand gestures or viral social media posts. Sometimes it's in the quiet moments, him showing up when she needs him, him holding her hand in a crowd, him defending her name when she's not there to hear it, him building a future, not just dreaming about it. That's seriousness, that's love. And if you're watching this right now wondering if the younger man in your life is serious about you, here's how you'll know. Does he stay consistent even when it's inconvenient? Does he include you in his real life? Not just the fun, exciting parts, but the tough, messy parts too. Does he stand up for you even when people judge? Does he talk about a future with you, not just a present? If the answer is yes to those, then stop doubting. He's serious. And the age difference, that's just a number that the rest of the world hasn't caught up with yet. Because at the end of the day, love doesn't check IDs. Love doesn't ask for birth certificates. Love doesn't care how many candles are on your cake. Love only cares about connection, trust, respect, and commitment. And if a younger man finds that with an older woman, he has every reason to be serious. And sometimes that seriousness is stronger than anything society could have imagined. So the next time someone asks, can a younger man really be serious about an older woman? I want you to smile and say, not only can he, but he already is. Because love doesn't follow rules, it writes its own. And if you've made it this far in the video, that means you're serious too. Serious about understanding love in all its forms. Serious about challenging stereotypes. Serious about celebrating real connections. So do me a favor, hit that like button.
drop a comment below with your thoughts, and most importantly, subscribe to this channel. Because here we don't just talk about love, we talk about the kind of love that shakes the world, that breaks barriers, that proves everyone wrong. And trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next. So whether you're the younger man, the older woman, or just someone watching from the outside, remember this: love is serious when you make it serious. Age is just the background. The story is written by the two people who dare to live it, and that's a truth no stereotype can erase.